Hi, my name is Christine. I'm Real Ex-Housewife on social media, and I wanted to make a video about Vanderpump Rules and the scandal that has taken over the Bravo world. So hopefully, if you guys are watching this video, you guys know about Vanderpump Rules, you know about Sandoval and Raquel and Ariana, and so much has happened within the last week. Really, since it all came out, every day there's been new developments, new drama, and I just wanted to share my hot take about everything and follow it as things keep coming out and as the reunion gets closer and the end of the season and everything. So let's talk about it. Scandoval. Tom Sandoval and Ariana Maddox, they've been dating for 9 years. They own a house together. He forced himself on a book deal that she had about cocktails and drinks because they're bartenders. 2 Fridays ago, it came out that Sandoval has been having an affair, 7-month affair with Raquel Leviss, whose real name is Rachel. Since that news dropped, there's been so many things that have happened. But I want to talk about some podcasts that I've heard over the week from people that are really close to the whole situation, kind of recapping those and sharing just some of the newer drama that I haven't heard too much yet going around. So in particular, over the week, I heard Kristen Doty's podcast. I usually don't listen to it. Actually, this was probably my first time listening to it. But she specifically said that she was going to be really sharing the tea on there. And so obviously I was intrigued. And it was actually very, very good. And some of the takeaways that I took from that were, at least she talked about how it really went down, how Ariana found the video that started it all, because there's a lot of rumors that his phone, Tom Sandoval's phone, fell out during his show or XYZ. And she doesn't specify how Ariana got his phone, but she had it, and she said, she told her that she kind of had this feeling of I should just look through his phone. And she did, and then that's how she found the video of the two of them. Tom had recorded their sexy time, FaceTime of them masturbating to each other. And I guess she had sent it to Raquel, and I was like, what the fuck? And apparently with the whole Sheena thing, because Sheena and Raquel were in New York filming. They had just filmed Watch What Happens Live. So apparently Ariana called Raquel and confronted her, and Raquel kind of stepped away, and she was having this conversation with her, and Sheena came up to her and was like, what's going on? And she was all too casually
oh, Tom and I have been having an affair for 7 months, and Ariana just found out.
Super just nonchalant about it, I guess. And Sheena got pissed and grabbed her phone and did throw it in the gutter or in the street kind of a thing. But she didn't punch her. She, which I knew, I really didn't think that Sheena would stoop so low. She's a mom. She has her baby to come back home to, her husband. Some other people are oh, Sheena's pretty scrappy. Who was saying that? Peter Madrigal, which is one of the manager at SUR. He's been on and off throughout the whole series, Vanderpump Rules show. He was on a podcast, and he was talking about how Sheena's pretty scrappy. I mean, she's from Azusa, so it wouldn't surprise me. But because she's a mom, because she has so much going on, it's why risk that? But with that being said, Raquel did get a restraining order against Sheena, which was because before I heard Kristen's podcast, Raquel, all this came out on Friday. Raquel on Tuesday got the restraining order, and everyone's talking about it, and she posted pictures. I have it posted on my Instagram page of like darkness in her eye and like a cut here, and she, in her paperwork that she filed, said that Sheena like shoved her into a brick wall, punched her in the face, and that is why she's a danger to her, and she's afraid for her safety, and that Sheena has told fellow cast members that like she's not sorry for what she did. So when you get a restraining order, the judge essentially just hears that one side of the story, and the judge thought there was enough evidence to issue a temporary restraining order. And so on March 29th is their court hearing, and that's when Sheena, they're both going to show up, and Sheena's going to have the chance to tell her side of the story. Her attorney already came out and made a statement and denied everything and said that, you know, basically Raquel's a liar and a cheater. And, you know, she's looking forward to her day in court. So another part of Kristen's podcast that I found pretty, like, heartwarming is that Kristen, that day, she went over to Ariana's on Friday when they all kind of rallied around her. And when Ariana, like, saw her, she hugged her, kissed her, and, you know, was, like, crying, and they're just hugging, and Ariana then told her, like, I'm so sorry. And Kristen's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, don't even go there. Because essentially, when Kristen was dating Tom Sandoval, he already was cheating on her with Ariana. They cheated on each other, and that's what she told Ariana. Like, our relationship is completely different. We were young, we were toxic, we should have broken up way before they actually did. So there, it's like, it's not in any kind of comparison. It's like apples to oranges. Like, Ariana and Tom were together for 9 years. They were living together. They had a house together. They're essentially like husband and wife, just without like the papers. So she's like, do not apologize. Like, it's not the same, and don't even try to put it in the same category, because it's not. So I thought that was kind of sweet, which I'm sure it was like nice for her to hear it from Ariana. But also it shows how mature, much more mature Kristen is than when she was on the show. I mean, she said it herself that she did a lot of work. She has gone to therapy. She's learned from her mistakes and did a lot of growing, and it shows the way she talks about these things. She's really like emotionally mature, and I'm proud of her for that. So and she is filming. There's cameras. She was like on Ariana's street, and they have pictures of cameras following her, so she will be on this season. And the last thing was that Kristen talked about on that podcast was Tom Sandoval had actually come home one of those nights when they, like, a lot of their friends have been coming over and like cooking dinner for her and like cleaning up. And my mom laughed because she was hearing part of it, and she's like, oh, it's like somebody died. But essentially it kind of is. Like, when you have a relationship with someone like that and something this crazy happens, and it's just like the rug's been pulled out from underneath her, and this was someone she thought she was going to be spending the rest of her life with, and now she's not, you know. And the fallout from it all, like, are they going to sell their house? What's going to like all these questions. It does feel like a death. I mean, speaking from someone who's literally going through a divorce currently, there is a lot that you have to process, whereas Ariana doesn't. Like, it's just from one day to the next, her life is one way, and now it's completely different, and what she thought that life was is not that at all. So it's pretty intense. So friends have been over, they've been, you know, there for her if she wants to talk, if she wants to just sit in silence and watch TV. So they've been pretty supportive of her. But at one point, Tom Sandoval came home, and everyone just got quiet because it was like, what the fuck? Like, awkward, and like, do we say something to him? And I mean, technically that's his house too. So I think he says something like,
I know everyone hates me, like.
And then he ends up going upstairs. And so Kristen offered to be the, like, her and another friend to go up there and talk to him and kind of be the mediator and let him know, like, hey, you can't really come home. Like, you being here is just painful for Ariana. But she said it herself, like, I also know that I have to do it in a specific way where I'm kind of like playing into his ego. I'm kind of like, hey, I know that you really care about her and that you obviously love her and you don't want to cause any further pain than what she's already going through. So just be aware that, like, you should probably give her like a couple of hours heads up, letting her know that you're going to be here so that way she can have enough time to get her stuff and leave, or blah blah blah. And he basically told her, like, okay, but this is my house too, so if she's uncomfortable, she's more than welcome to leave. Which is like so insane to me. It's like, how? Tell me you're a narcissist without telling me you're a narcissist. Like, plain and simple. The fact that he's so entitled. He feels so entitled. Like, this is my house. Like, I don't care. I just ruined my 9-year relationship with some trashy girl. Like, to not take accountability and to be like, wow, like, I'm such a piece of shit. Let me not be around for a while. Let me go home and get my stuff and go get a hotel room. Like, the fact that he can just show up and not feel guilty, like not feel that profound sense of like, holy shit, I'm a terrible person. Like, that tells me that he's a full-on narcissist. And it's been there in front of our eyes this whole time. I always like was annoyed by Tom. I always thought that this guy was really cringy. I mean, the trumpet and his cover band, which is like just a bigger version of like karaoke. And it just shows that this is who he is. That is why him and Jax didn't get along or like have had this like major fallout, because Jax is not that much better. Like, obviously he's a cheater, he's has issues, but he was upfront about it. Like, whereas Sandoval was, you know, it's all about appearances, right? So he was very good about presenting himself as the good guy, but now like the mask has fallen off and everyone is seeing him for who he really is. And that brings me to Raquel. You know, in Stassi's podcast, she's like, I never thought that I was gonna be talking about Vanderpump Rules ever again, much less like a whole hour's worth of it. So it was nice to, or fun to see like her side of things and her reaction, because obviously she was like one of the biggest stars on that show until she was let go. But same thing, she and Tom had problems. She never liked him, and finally she was just like, everyone is seeing him for who he really is, and I knew it all along. And she said the same thing. Like, she feels, obviously everyone's team Ariana, and she feels so bad for her. And she was saying that it's also not comparable to what happened between Kristen, her, and Jax, like in season 1 or 2, when Kristen and Jax slept together, like behind Stassi's back, and she, you know, it came out, and she was just like paranoid, like, for the longest time. She said, like, that is what caused my dark passenger, like, side of me to come out, because she was so traumatized by it. She, you know, for the longest time, it was really hard for her to trust anyone, her friends, her boyfriend. That's why she was like so crazy with Beau in the beginning, because it was a trauma response. So she can't imagine how it's going to be for Ariana, because this is her partner of 9 years, and it was her best friend. Like, her and Raquel were very close within the last couple years. Like, when Raquel and James broke up, like, she really took her under her wing, and her and Sheena were the ones that like welcomed her in the beginning when she first started coming on, when she was dating James. So it's just, she's like, you know, it's not comparable. Like, that was traumatic, so I can't imagine what it's going to be like for Ariana. Like, it's going to take her a long time to really overcome this stuff, and that's pretty gnarly. It's sad, and yeah, it's just nice to see like different people's points of view. but all that leading to Raquel, and just like, oh, what a psychopath this girl is. Like, I don't know enough. Obviously, no one knows enough, but like to say she's a narcissist, like, I guess, but I think she's like a psychopath. Like, if you want to really think about it, like, this is a possibility that she kind of planned all of this. Like, she watched the show, she was a fan of the show. She didn't organically meet James Kennedy. She and her sister like went to one of his shows. She made herself, you know, like visible to him, and she put a spell on him. And so they started dating. She got on the show. She has this persona of like, oh, like ditzy and blah blah, and she pulls it off so well. But I think she's like, underneath that is like super conniving and like strategically doing these things. Because it also makes me think about when Sandoval like paid $25,000 for Raquel, for James to propose to Raquel. Like, even back then, I thought that was so weird. Like, why would you spend $25,000 on, like, and him and James weren't even like best friends. Like, they had issues prior, because James dated Kristen after him and Kristen broke up. Like, it was just so mind-boggling. But now it's like, oh, did Sandoval and Raquel already had like a thing going on? And like, that was either Tom feeling guilty about it and wanting to like help James out, and that's like his way of like making himself feel better, or was that Tom's way of like kind of showing up, or not showing up, like competing with James? Like, I don't know, it's just a trip. So yeah, I don't know if like physically something was going on, but like, I'm sure there's some sort of already tie with them. And then she ended up breaking up with James at the end, December of 2021, when, you know, they filmed the reunion. So yeah, people are saying like, what if they were together longer than the 7 months? Like, what if it's been happening for quite some time? And it's crazy to think that I've watched a lot of Raquel's interviews, like leading up to all of this happening. She was on a few podcasts, and like, there's one that I just watched last night on Us Weekly of her and Sheena. And the way she just talks about, oh, I'm single and I'm gonna, you know, live my life, and I'm sorry if that upsets people, but I'm tired of being a people pleaser, and I'm doing things for me, and, you know, I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of like my happiness now. So, and she like really meant that. Like, she will step on whoever she needs to. I really think that she uses James, Sheena, unfortunately Ariana. You know, everyone was so upset about how she was able to like hook up with Schwartz, even more so because like, as the episodes play out, like this last one where even LVP called her out when they're asking her about like Schwartz, and she's like, yeah, Sheena like planted that seed. And Lisa was like, oh, come on, like, you have to take a little bit more accountability. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm just so innocent. Like, no, you knew what you were doing. And the fact that like Katie's mom had to speak up for her, and Katie got emotional, like, that made me feel for her, because it's like, yeah, like, Katie and Schwartz it's not just boyfriend, girlfriend, like, they were married. Same thing. They had a house together. Like, I have a feeling that they tried to get pregnant and they weren't able to. So I'm sure that played a lot into like, allegedly, right? Allegedly. I'm sure something like that would have played into the demise of their relationship. So for Raquel to just be so casually like, hey, Schwartz, you want to make out? And like, oh, well, you guys are divorced. You asked for a divorce, so you have no right to control him or tell him what he can do and who he can hang out with. I get it. All that's like very surface and seems like, oh, you know, you can't. But it's like, it goes way deeper. So yeah, for her to just, whatever, like, I want to make out with him. And to add on top of that, what I've seen on TikTok, is that she was hooking up with these guys to make Sandoval jealous. Like, she wanted him to break up with Ariana, and he kept dragging his feet and making excuses. So to piss him off, to make him jealous, she was, having that thing with Schwartz. And then she goes and she makes out with Garcelle's son. It's just like she has no regards. Like she's using people like as pawns, which leads me to when TMZ ran into Schwartz. I think it was yesterday, the day before. He was at the airport and they interviewed him, or did a quick little interview, and the guy asked him like, were you and Raquel actually a thing, or was it kind of like a decoy? And he's like laughing. He's like, oh no, like, he's like, I don't want to get into that, but that's, it wasn't a decoy. He's like, unless I was a pawn in all of this, but blah, blah, blah. It's like, were you? Maybe you were. Who knows? Between both of those people, Sandoval and Raquel, like, Sandoval and Schwartz have been best friends for so long, but a narcissist like that just uses people. Like, that's their supply, is the people around them. And unfortunately, Schwartz has become one of his enablers, being that close to him and not really making him be accountable for certain things. And I think that his bad influence in their friendship, also like him being in his ear, didn't help with Katie and Schwartz's marriage. So there's just like a lot of moving parts with this, and that's why I kind of just wanted to recap on everything that's been going on and kind of my thoughts of how maybe Raquel just had this planned all along, and how gross she is to not feel bad for things, for her to not feel guilty about anything. It's just wild. I want to see what happens. Are her and Tom going to like continue together? Some places are saying, well, first of all, that Tom has refused to film because he's not liking the storyline that's happening now with him. And he's also like freaking out because he doesn't want Raquel to like leave him high and dry and him kind of be on the outskirts of everyone else. Yeah, it's going to be weird to watch the rest of the season. I'm wondering, hopefully production's able to like re-edit the rest of the episodes to really give us some goose eggs, just like they did in this last week's episode. At the very end, that one of the previews for next week, where it's Lala, Christina Kelly, and Katie in the bed, and Raquel sitting across from them, and Lala's like, I'll tell you one thing, I would not trust you around my man. And then Raquel, she sounds like she's drunk, and she's like, well, good thing you don't have a man to be around, or something like that. So it's like implying like, good thing there is no man that you have for me to not pounce on, essentially. Like, it was so like, oh my god. And they're like, oh my god, Raquel, like, it, yeah. So it's just, those little Easter eggs are going to be nice to see leading up to the filming of the reunion and them showing the reunion and adding on. I guess they're going to add on at least one more episode at the end. So yeah, it's been a lot, and I don't know if it's done yet. I think it's kind of dying down, but you never know with this cast. And all of that to say that Vanderpump Rules is probably one of the best reality shows that's currently out right now. I started watching it in the pandemic. I went back and I started season 1. I remember everyone talking about it and me never really getting into it. I remember the intro episode between like Sheena and Brandy that they had on Housewives of Beverly Hills. And I remember I thought that was so weird. It's like, who cares about these like servers or whatever? And I just didn't get into it. But then obviously pandemic, I was pregnant. So I needed something to binge. And oh my God, I got so into that show. So yeah, now seeing like, this is probably the biggest scandal for sure in the history of the show. But other people are saying like in the history of Bravo, like this is like such a huge bomb that happened. So yeah, I mean, perfect timing for me to start my YouTube channel. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the reunion of Potomac and kind of wrapping up that season. I'm going to talk about New Jersey Housewives. I'm going to talk about Jersey Shore. So yeah, if you like pop culture, reality TV, Hollywood gossip. Come back, keep hanging out with me. Let me know what you're obsessed with right now, what shows you've been into. I think my next binger is going to be Real Housewives of Miami, because I haven't seen one episode of that and everyone talks so highly of it. So yeah, again, my name is Christine and I'll see you guys next time.